the sacred merged spirit Cynosure Zien, the spiritual cosmic parent consciousness. The third eye, Zien Cosmic Spiritual Realization Pathway, through cultivation and meditation, by Zaknadutra, copyright 2023, all rights reserved. IN 178-1-959484-81-3. Paperback. Acknowledgement. This book is based on in-depth years of spiritual cultivation, teachings of my experience, and cosmic spiritual realization. I would also like to acknowledge the extraordinary contribution of my first disciple, Lek, who encouraged me to start the work, persevere with it, and finally publish it. About the author, I started a trip to India and Nepal for the Buddha's sacred places, which led to the activation of my spiritual realization journey. This comprised 2 parts of intense study, research, and wild meditation for days and nights over years, until I attained spiritual realization and enlightenment on my own. Once, I had a similar epiphany at the age of 36 years of age. About the book, whenever one tries to gain spiritual knowledge, it is always beneficial to probe questions, because that may help you to expand your current knowledge. Your destiny can be changed. It can be rewritten either actively by a cultivator's power or passively by a worldly person in the cosmos. Spiritual realization is the only way a person can attain spiritual third eye enlightenment. It is not a physical eye like the other ordinary 2 eyes we have that can capture physical visions. The sacred spiritual third eye not only enables the person able to access the spiritual wisdom and the spiritual sacred world, but also enlightens the person's ability to see colors and flowing patterns of the sacred spiritual electricity current flow, the energy flow within it, which is the center point of the spiritual energy body and physical body. The merging, flowing center is at the center forehead. The flow starts from the center and spreads and enlarges out the whole head and rains down the body, which phenomenon is called body crystallization. Preface. As a part of spiritual cosmic nature, the spiritual urge will just push you to find your inner self again in time. Once you have already attained it in your past lifetime, you will just do it again, no matter, moreover. It is easier for you to walk that path even without any direction. You will just research, need some relevant teaching, information, some training, anything that is related to the spiritual practices that you think it is reasonable and rational to you, and you will take it and test it. You will prove it right or wrong, and you will find your own spiritual realization on your own pathway. Acknowledgement. About the author. Preface. The Sacred Birth 1. Introduction 6. Chapter 110. The Third Eye 10. Chapter 257. Worship, Faith, Prostration, and Spiritual Cosmic Nature 57. Chapter 371. Cosmic Spiritual Nature, Mother Earth 71. Chapter 482. Spiritual Cosmic Compassion, Nature 82. Faith-Wealth 82. Chapter 595. Understand Desires, Reality of Spiritual Practices 95. Chapter 6, 125. Spirituality 4 Noble Truths in Buddhism 125. Chapter 7, 184. Emotion 184. Chapter 8, 225. Practice Selflessness to Salvage Our Biorobot Body 225. Chapter 9, 243. The Subconscious and Unconscious Mind in Cosmic Spirituality 243. Chapter 10, 268. Desire and Attachment 268. Chapter 11, 288. Spiritual Journey to Success and the Pathway Note 288. Chapter 12, 326. The Pathway Note 326. Page blank intentionally. The Sacred Birth. Born in the south of Vietnam, in a family where Tibetan Buddhism, a form of Mahayana, strongly prevailed in the form of religion, I named Zaknadutra. Since my family was a firm believer in a dominant religion, they believed in old customs and traditions. My mother, out of all my family members, practiced all kinds of rituals, making sure others followed accordingly. I have always seen my mother imparting most of the religious knowledge to me and others. It was absurd to have liberal women be this superstitious, given she had 2 bachelor's degrees, which earned her a reputable job. She worked as a tax inspector for the Internal Revenue Service, and her father, a former high-ranking colonel of the collapsed South Vietnam, was not considered superstitious at all in our family. By the time my mother reached her last months of pregnancy with me, she had shown no signs of giving birth. As her pregnancy progressed into the 10 months, her worries slowly turned into fear. She thought she might lose me forever, and she could not let that happen. During that time, Vietnam was facing a horrifying economic crisis, due to which the medical healthcare facility suffered enormously. There was minimal medical aid and doctors available on duty to help my mother deliver her baby quickly. Her father, in distress, started looking for solutions, and he was advised to follow a local traditional belief that could speed up the process. My mother was advised to ask for some rice from her neighbors to cook. It was a popular ritual back in the day, but unfortunately, it did not work. My mother felt no birth pangs after she cooked a pot of rice. Then her attention diverted towards another ritual involving asking for old clothes from a poor family, but sadly that did not work in her favor either. After waiting desperately for the arrival of her baby and trying out these rituals, my mother's 12 months of pregnancy started. Extremely anguished and saddened, my mother was finally relieved from the burden by the divinity, and I came in her lap on April 30th, 1978. It was a quick birth, and I was a healthy baby boy. This is the only thing that mattered. Also, years later, I have a memory back about the time before birth. I went to reincarnation, which I will discuss later in this chapter. I have spent my entire childhood in a state of wonder and exploration. I had never run from an opportunity to learn new things. I can recall when I was about 7 years old. I started to develop many intuitions about the impermanence and the fragility of life, as well as the suffering of human life that just came out from nowhere but inside my mind. After moving to Bangkok, Thailand, and finishing high school, I wanted to pursue higher education. I was passionate about learning about multicultural understanding, religions, businesses, and other schools of thought being practiced worldwide. Another school. During my postgraduate study in Thailand, I got a chance to be ordained as a Buddhist monk following the Thai Hinayana tradition for a summer, enriching my spiritual interest even deeper into the future. I was honored to achieve a Gold Medal of Honor recipient from the University Honor Award after I completed my 4 years of bachelor's degree in an international college and 2 years of master's degree in business administration, which is abbreviated as MBA. I took a job as a university instructor for a global business program. Years later, I moved and worked for a corporation and took care of the exportation and distribution of the product in Vietnam, which brought me back to Vietnam and opened up my own import-export company in later years. Few years later, my mother and I started a trip to India and Nepal for the Buddha's sacred places, which led to the activation of my spiritual realization journey. This comprised 2 parts of intense study, research, and wild meditation for days and nights over a year until I attained spiritual realization and enlightenment on my own. Once, I had a similar epiphany at the age of 36 years of age. Introduction.